"Don't expect more than this," my mother whispered, as she slipped a thin envelope into my hand. Across the ballroom, my younger sister Lauren was laughing for the cameras, while photographers circled her like she was the center of the world. Behind her stretched a reception that had cost $250,000. Crystal chandeliers hung above hundreds of guests, tall white orchids filled every table, and plates of filet mignon cooled on polished china. I stood near the back wall of the ballroom inside the Fairmont Austin Hotel, holding an envelope that suddenly felt heavier than paper should. Inside it was a check. $800. 20 minutes earlier, I had asked my parents a simple question. "Would you help Michael and me with our wedding the way you helped Lauren?" Apparently, this was their answer. But the check itself wasn't the real reason I walked out of that ballroom that night. It was what my mother said next. "My name is Clara Bennett. I'm 31 years old now, but 2 years ago I was standing in that ballroom realizing something I had refused to admit for most of my life. I was never meant to be the daughter my mother was proud of. I grew up in Plano, Texas, in a quiet suburb where every house looked almost identical and every driveway held at least 2 cars. Our home was a large 2-story colonial with a white fence, a 2-car garage, and a golden retriever named Milo. From the outside, the Bennett family looked perfect. Inside, there was an unspoken ranking system. At the top of that ranking was my younger sister, Lauren Bennett. Lauren had always been the family's investment. Straight-A student, debate team champion, early acceptance to Stanford University. She carried herself with the confidence of someone who had been told her entire life that she was destined for something important. My mother made sure of that. My mother, Elaine Bennett, had once dreamed of becoming an attorney. She never went to law school, but that ambition never disappeared. Instead, it slowly transferred itself onto Lauren. Lauren became everything my mother believed success should look like. Perfect grades, perfect career path, perfect future. Then, there was me. I was the daughter who preferred creative work, marketing ideas, photography, writing campaigns for imaginary brands. When I won a regional art competition in high school, I came home excited, holding the certificate like it was something valuable. My mother glanced at it for 2 seconds. "That's nice, Clara," she said. Then she added the sentence I heard many times growing up. "But creativity doesn't pay the bills." Lauren's debate trophies filled the glass cabinet in our living room. My certificate went into a drawer. After college, I graduated from the University of Texas with a marketing degree and found a job at a small digital marketing agency in Dallas. The office had maybe 10 employees and sat above a printing shop that smelled permanently like ink and paper. My starting salary was $40,000 a year. It wasn't impressive to my family, but it was the first thing I had built for myself. The real problem was transportation. Dallas is a city built for drivers, not pedestrians. My job required visiting clients across the metro area, and public transportation barely reached the suburbs where many of them were located. I needed a car. My credit history was short, so my parents agreed to co-sign a $24,000 loan for a used sedan. My monthly payment was $340. At the time, I thought it was a generous gesture. Later, I realized it was leverage. My mother kept the co-sign paperwork in a drawer beside her bed like it was a contract she could reference anytime she needed control. Whenever I made a decision she didn't like, the reminder appeared. "You still owe us for that car," she would say calmly. My father, Thomas Bennett, rarely disagreed with her. He usually sat quietly at the dinner table reading the newspaper. When my mother finished speaking, he would add one sentence: "Your mother has a point." He never explained what that point was. I met Michael Carter in a bookstore cafe in downtown Dallas. He was sitting by the window with a laptop and a sketch tablet, designing a mobile interface for one of his clients. Michael was a freelance app designer. He had built his career independently, sending cold emails to startups until people started hiring him. My mother hated that description. A freelancer? She said during the first dinner where he met my family. So neither of you actually has a stable career. Michael heard every word, but he didn't argue. Later that night, he told me quietly, "People who underestimate you usually don't understand what you're building." A few months later, Lauren announced her engagement to Dr. Ryan Matthews, a surgeon whose family owned several medical clinics across Texas. My mother immediately began planning the wedding like it was a national event. Luxury venue, designer dress, imported orchids. The budget climbed past $200,000, then $230,000, then finally settled around $250,000. My parents paid for almost everything. 5 weeks before the wedding, Michael proposed to me. There were no fireworks or dramatic gestures. Just a quiet Tuesday night in our apartment, pasta on the stove, rain tapping against the window. "I don't have a big speech," he said. "I just know I want this life with you." I said yes before he finished the sentence. When we told my family the following Sunday, my father smiled politely. "That's wonderful," he said. Then he went back to reading the newspaper. My mother looked at my ring for exactly 2 seconds before turning to Lauren. Did the florist confirm the orchid delivery? By the time Lauren's wedding day arrived, the reception looked like something from a luxury magazine. Nearly 180 guests filled the ballroom while a live jazz band played near the dance floor. I stood in the corner, wearing a simple $90 black dress, watching the celebration. When I asked my mother about helping with our wedding, she didn't hesitate. She handed me the envelope. "That's all we can contribute," she said quietly. When I opened it and saw the $800 check, my chest tightened. My sister's wedding had cost $250,000. Mine was apparently worth $800. Then my mother looked directly at Michael and added something that changed everything. "We can't invest in something uncertain." The room suddenly felt very quiet. I folded the check, slipped it back into the envelope, and walked across the ballroom to Michael. "We're leaving," I said softly. He didn't ask questions. He simply stood up. We walked out of the ballroom together, past the valet line and into the warm Texas night. 2 weeks later, we packed everything we owned into my car and drove toward Denver, Colorado with $6,200 in our savings account and no backup plan. That drive turned out to be the beginning of everything my mother had believed I would never have.